Hey, what's up everybody? Like I said, I would do my best to try and keep you guys up to date on what we're doing and why we're doing it. We just hit 15 hours on the 21 Outlander, so we're gonna go do the full fluid flush. I know the book says not to do it till about 25 to 50 hours, but we're gonna go through everything. We're gonna do the engine, we're gonna do the transmission, we're gonna do the front differential, rear differential, then we're gonna lube the whole thing up at the end. I'm gonna take you guys through it step by step. We'll do a long video, and then we'll also go ahead and break it down series by series in case you guys are trying to do a specific video yourself. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoy it. All right, step one to getting the beast ready. We're gonna take off a bunch of these plastics here. I'm gonna walk you through that real quick. Let's see what we got here. So we're obviously gonna wanna do the whole engine compartment. To do that, the easiest way is to remove the seat. You guys already know how to do that, little lever in the back. Take this guy, back it off. Pull up on your cluster, and then you'll remove your side panel here, which is not too bad. Let's see, you've got a screw there, two down here. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see, I know, I'm sorry about that. And then right under here you're going to have a Phillips head screw. We'll take that out, and then you'll have behind here you're going to have a 10mm bolt to take off. This panel will come up and out. And then we'll get to the floorboards, which floorboards are pretty easy. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws, and then you'll have 2 screws underneath here and here that have to go down and come out. And then you're also going to have your 30mm bolt right here, and that's front and rear. You'll see the same bolts sitting right here on the front. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back here when we're done. All right, cool. We got all the plastics off. We took the footwells out also, like I said, to make things easier. Let's go over some quick things that are in this engine bay here that you like to pay attention to, and just an overall reference of what everything is up in here. Starting with this brace right on top, you got your shift linkage that goes down to your transmission right there. That is what decides what gear you're going to be in. It's connected to a plate right here. A big known problem, I'm sure some of you guys have heard this, is that this guy right here, this little plastic piece that goes around here, that is prone to breaking right down here with this shift linkage. If you back up, see what I'm saying? It's prone to breaking right here on this seam. So they do make billet aluminum ones. We're going to swap that out. We'll go over that as well with you. It's nice to be able to bulletproof your machines, because one thing you definitely don't want is to be stuck out in the bush or in the swamp or wherever you guys ride at and have broken linkage and not have reverse, high, low, or whatever gear you need to move, because once that thing breaks, it's a real big pain in the butt to try and shift your machine. Moving along, here's your throttle body for your electronic fuel injection. Gets rid of all your old carburetors and all that stuff. This right here is made by Bosch. Your electronic fuel injection goes right back to your air box on the opposite side. Coming down, one of the first things we're going to do as far as this oil change goes is we're going to drain the oil from the bottom of the motor here, and then we're going to end up swapping the filter out, which is behind these 3 screws. If you guys can see, there's 1, 2, and then 3. We'll pop that cover off. There's an O-ring in there. Slide the filter out and drain that oil as well. Reinstall a new filter, and then come over here and we'll this is where we fill the engine oil filter up with. Other things we're going to be doing real quick is we're going to take and drain from right here, and then right below that, it's probably kind of hard to see, we'll get some better angles for you when we're doing it, but there's also the drain port for your transmission there. We're going to be changing out the engine oil, transmission, and both front and rear differential fluids, as well as inspecting the airbox and looking out for overall integrity over everything. So yeah. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this off. You guys can see I already took a pair of needle nose and popped this little spring out. We're now going to take out the 1, 2, 3 bolts and maybe that zip tie there, and we'll see how that goes. Alright, so a lot of things on the Can Ams that you guys will notice is the spinning nut on the backside is encased in plastic. So anytime you're taking any screws out on Can Ams, especially if they look like they're going into plastic, I would be very hesitant to use a impact to tighten them or loosen them. You'll see that on the other side. Real quick, I'll show you what I'm talking about with the belt box. So these belt box screws, and that's probably hard to see, but these screws right here, you don't ever want to use an impact on them to at least to break them free or tighten them up, because those are encased with plastic and you don't ever want to do that. It's a real nightmare to get them out if you can get that nut to spin on the backside. Anyway, back to what we were doing. Let's take these screws out. Alright, so once you got your three thingies out, you'll come over here, grab the zip tie in the back, and trim that. Just want to be careful that you're not grabbing any wires. There goes that. And then another quick tip, what I did is I took the handle piece off. You just turn it just like you do with any other screw, lefty loosey, righty tighty, and then I just slid it to high to drop it down into this hole right here. Just remember, when you put it all back together, you're in neutral. And now, oh, there goes my spring. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that jam nut right there off the back right here, and then we're gonna get the new piece of billet. Let's grab that. And boom, there it is. All right, so we got our two pieces here. This is the one that just came out. Obviously, it always breaks, loves to crack in all these joints where the bolts come through. We're replacing with solid bit aluminum. Much tougher, much stronger. You don't have to worry about not being able to shift gears. Reverse is really handy, and you don't really know how much you use it until it's gone. So, yep, getting rid of this cheap component that is prone to breaking, and we're going to replace it with billet aluminum. You can find these on Amazon for it's under 15 bucks. They're not too bad, and I know you can get them from a lot of third market parties as well. So let's go ahead, let's throw this in. Thread this nut on. Remember, you're gonna grab your other little nut here to tighten it up. Put it on one side, this on the other. And remember, it's designed to move, so you don't want to go super tight on it. That's got a lock washer on it anyway, so you'll be all right. Wouldn't worry about it too much. You take this guy. Remember, before you put it on there, you're gonna take this joker. You're gonna feed it back through where it's supposed to go, right? And then up. I always like to hand thread everything in first. You don't really want those kind of problems if you don't need them. 1, 2, and then 3. Now these got Loctite on them, so don't go nothing too crazy. Remember what we said about going too overboard. All right, now let's not forget, we gotta do the zip tie here to hold these wires from bouncing around, causing chafage. There you go, and give that a little snip. That stops your wires from bouncing around, moving around. Last thing you want is something chafing, causing an electrical problem. Get in here as tight as you can. There you go. Wires are in there good and tight. Now we got to do our spring. Let's not forget our spring. Spring will go in the top of this second hole. You're gonna grab it, and then just like when you took it off, it's gonna go up and then through that other hole up there. It actually might be easier to do the top hole first, I would think. So there's that one. I'll grab this joker. Boom, there you go. That's in there. And now it pulls it back in. That should be good to go. Now we're just gonna put our little handle screw on. It should still be set to where it was at. All right, we can double check your linkage. You're gonna check from free movement from reverse all the way up to low. This will not get away from the rocking. You gotta do back and forth. So you're gonna watch it all the way down, make sure nothing's weird going on. You'll move it. You'll watch down here where your shift point is. Looks good. Won't have to worry about that cheap thing breaking off anymore. All right, everybody, welcome back. New day. Yesterday we went through and we changed out the shift connector. Today we're gonna go in here and we're gonna change the oil for the first time on this. We're sitting at about 15 hours. I know the book says you don't gotta do anything until 50 hours, but me just being precautionary, I bought and I own this machine now, so I'm gonna try and take really good care of it. And the initial break-in and wear and tear that happens on this motor, you don't want an extra piece of metal just kind of floating around there. You're just asking for trouble. So we're going to do the engine, transmission, front and rear discs. I'll probably break it up into a like 3 or 4 part segment, and then I'll also have one long video as well, so for you guys that just want to watch the whole thing and follow along. But anyway, let's jump right into it. All right, guys, so what you're going to need to do this job, really simple. You need your standard funnel, nice rag, O-ring for the filter housing, a fuel filter, part number, 8mm socket, 17mm socket for the drain plug, and a 3/8 ratchet. And of course, your oil. Let's jump right into it. Alright, so for some of you guys that have maybe never really changed oil before, quick little tip here. I've already done it, but you want to at least make sure your engine's somewhat warm. I usually start it up and let it run for a few minutes. It's even good to be up to regular operating temperature if need be, but start your engine warm. That makes your viscosity of your oil very, very thin and allows it to drop off the top of the motor and all the way down into your pan when it's done. It'll come out a lot easier. That way you don't have as much oil sitting inside the motor when you go to drain it. So step 1, start up your machine and let it run until it's pretty decently warm. All right, next step, you're gonna take and you're gonna loosen your oil fill, which is the silver thing right here. You're just gonna loosen it. Don't take it all the way out, but loosen it. The reason we're doing this is we're gonna get rid of the vacuum that the engine has. So just start it, leave it just like that. I wouldn't take it all the way out because you don't want any dust to fall down inside that motor. All right, next step. We're gonna go in here and remove that drain plug right there with a 17mm socket. You can also see it from the bottom. Go ahead and let it all drain. After you remove your plug from your engine, don't forget you're going to have a wash in there. Sometimes this gets stuck on the bottom of the motor. You want to make sure you have that. It's good habit to replace it. Now once your plug's out, you'll see this is actually a magnet, and it grabs the particles. Anything that's metal that gets floating around your engine, it's at the bottom. It's a really nice thing Can Am does. Now don't freak out if it's brand new and you do get particles on there like I have right there. That's completely normal. What you don't want is a mound of metal that's like, say, like this high off the top, then you're going to have a serious problem. But a little bit like that isn't that much to worry about, and it should go down over time, but you will always have something on there as far as metal goes. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to clean that off and allow the machine to keep draining. See, once that's done, you're going to go ahead and don't forget your little washer. You're going to move your thing out of the way for a second. Look up in there and reinstall. I always like to start all these bolts with just my fingers. You're gonna snug them. I'm sure there's like a torque, but just don't overdo it. Just tight enough. Now you're gonna want to go in here. You're gonna want to make sure that I wouldn't wipe it off just yet, because we're gonna go ahead and take this filter off above us here, and we're gonna let that drain, then we'll wipe it all off at the same time. All right, now using your 8mm socket, you're gonna remove these bolts. All right, once you get these 3 bolts out, you're just gonna kind of play with it. There it goes. Now sometimes when you remove this, the filter will be stuck on there. Now remember, you just warmed it up, so this can be kind of hot. Take that out, set it out, and then here's your old oil filter. You just kind of wiggle it around, give it a yank, and then just set it down inside there, because we're going to inspect that here in just a second. All right, when you got your filter out, you're going to want to go and look at it to make sure that there aren't any big metal shavings in it, because that's a telltale sign that something could be wrong. This one looks good. Looks like we're ready to install our new filter. Alright, when prepping your new filter, you're going to have your rubber seal right here. It's always a good idea to take some oil and put it all the way around that, and then use it, and then you're just going to lube it up. Same thing you do with cars. You just don't want this to dry rot. So there you go. Once that lubed in, always remember that the rubber side goes towards the motor. I don't think you could install it backwards, but just so you know, the rubber side is going to go into the motor. So let's go ahead and get this in there. Come in. Let's see where it goes in there. See that little hole? You take it, and it's all a game of feeling it. Then boom. Once you find it, give it a firm little push so it's centered up. Now you can take your thing. Up to you guys if you want to change your O-ring. This one looks good, and I know that this motor has like no hours on it, so I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall the one I have. You're gonna have to work with this a little bit. So once your cover's back in, you'll take your bolts and start threading them by hand. 1, 2. Always try to thread them by hand first. The entire block's made out of aluminum, so it's just be very wise to try and do everything started by hand at least. Alright, we'll go ahead and snug these up. Alright, just a quick little manual reference as we're doing this. Engine oil, right, it says 2.1 quarts or 2 liters with a 5W40 synthetic oil blend. I've done that before, but I actually found that I much more prefer the 15W40. I've been running it for years, and all of my stuff, and I've never ever had a single issue with it, and all of my motors have been extremely strong when I've taken them apart. So I've always run the T6, and I'm just going to continue to run the T6. But yeah, as far as that goes, we'll throw 2 quarts in there, and then we'll check our level and see where we're at. So let's do that. Quick little tip here. What I like to do is anytime I pull that plug off, you'll see, especially if you run these in mud, some of these times you'll get dirt around the seal right here. What I usually like to do is I just take like a shop vac or a vacuum and I suck all that stuff out of there, because you don't want to rub on it because it potentially could fall down in there. It's just something you really don't want. So I usually take a shop vac and then I'll spray it with like a cleaner, and then I'll wipe this seal off right here. just so I can get all that dirt and debris off there. And then I'll also clean the O-ring on the dipstick side, just to keep your sand and stuff out of your motor. It's just something to pay attention to because it can bite you in the butt sometimes. So I'm not really sure what happened here, but we ended up losing the audio. All we're doing is filling the motor up until we get to the prescribed lines that are on our dipstick here. I'll show you in just a second. But yeah, all you're going to do is fill this up and make sure it's within this line. Start it up for 30 seconds. And then you're going to double check it again to make sure it's where it needs to be. You'll see here, it shows you those 2 lines. You just want to make sure it's in those lines. You should be good to go. I'm sorry for losing the audio here, but things just happen. Anyway, we're going to move on here. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rotex Rednecks. We've been going on over a 3 or 4 day series here on how-tos for your first service of the 2021 850 XMR. Thank you for joining us. If you're following along with the long series video, we got some good stuff for you today. And for anyone else that's tuning in for just this, we're going to do a long series video, and then we're also going to break it down component by component how-tos. So today we are working on the Outlander, and we're going to do the gearbox oil change for this guy right here. That is your standard transmission that goes from I believe the 570 all the way up to the 850. The 1000R does have a different transmission. It's the side-by-side transmission, but procedures are almost identical for that model. But for you guys that are 850 and lower, this is going to be for you. If you've been following along, we went over the gear shifter replace. We just did the motor oil. Now we're getting ready to do this transmission change. So let's jump right into it. All right, what you'll need to change the oil in this gearbox is you're going to need 75 140. I do believe you only need one of these. I bought 2 just to be safe. These pumps make it super easy. You just screw them on the end and you just pump it and it'll go in there. If you don't, it's a real nightmare trying to turn this thing and get it into the hole. So one of these pumps is worth your weight. I think they're like 10 or 12 bucks at any AutoZone, Napa, anything like that. So if you can get one of these, get one of these. You'll need a 15 millimeter socket and a 13 mil socket. I also have brought the manual up here to show you guys. You want your 75 140 gear oil, and it takes you through all the different steps on how to do it. And then for me, I also like to my drain pan for the oil, I do like to put this is just a standard paper towel, but I do like to have this in there so I can see what kind of metal shavings I get out of it. Something I learned in the Navy working on fighter jets is we used to, on all our hydraulic fluid, we used to run a rag as we were draining out the nose landing gear struts so we could see what kind of metal particles we have. So I like to do the same thing in my own stuff at home. So yeah, very simple. Let's get right into it. All right, so looking at your Outlander or your Renegade, you'll see your fill cap right here, and then your other one is located right under there, which is this guy right, hard to see right there. That's your other one right there. So we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing. We'll loosen this one and then we'll drain the other one. We're gonna loosen this. Might be kind of stiff. Give her a little tap. There it goes. Once you're loosened there. Remember, it's good to do this if it's warm. If you can't get it, it's not the end of the world. Remember, you there that seals it. So once that falls out, let that do its thing. So what your oil globe looks like. Remember, it's just like the engine, it's got a magnet on the end, so don't stress out if you've got stuff on there, especially if it's your first change. We're gonna look at this and we'll show you what this looks like, but that's pretty much normal for your first oil change. So we'll go ahead and let this all drain out, and then we'll have a look at it. So good practice I like to do, I like to take the little cap here and I smear it. You can see that it's not too bad. There's no big shavings in any of that. And that's kind of what you want to look for. You do yours. Yep. It's really nice that Can Am puts these on all their rigs, because that magnet will save you a load of trouble if you get a big old piece riding around in there. So yeah, inspect that. It is normal to have a bunch on there, little tiny fragments. If it's overloaded and got a bunch of really big pieces, you might want to get a good look at your transmission, figure out what's going on. Now I like to take and buy one of these sorted copper washer kits. So I replaced the new one. Here's the old one, you can see. Probably nothing wrong with it. I could probably reinstall it, but since I have brand new ones, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a new one on there. Just so that when we put it on, we don't have to worry about leaks or anything like that. And let's go check and see if this thing's done draining. Alright, well, we've slowed way down on our drainage from the transmission. If you can get it to come to a complete stop, that's great. I am kind of pressed for time right now, so I'm not going to wait like that. I know that if you can, you should. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this thing threaded in there. Remember, always thread all this stuff by hand as much as possible. If it's giving you a hard time, usually that means there's something wrong, so thread it all in by hand. Alright, just check the manual just to be sure. And it is 15 foot-pounds. So we'll go in here and that's it. Double check that. Alright, we're good. 15 foot-pounds. Alright, we gotta fill her up. Alright, you can now fully remove your plastic plug from the top. Always keep in mind there may be an O-ring in there. There it is. See that O-ring? Get really close to the end, so make sure that you verify that that did not stay on your machine, and then go ahead and slide it back down. Just set it to the side. Alright, now if you look at this, it says the oil should be level with the bottom of the oil level hole. Refill as required until gearbox oil level flows through the oil level hole. So we're going to take our 75-140 with our pump, and we're going to go ahead and pump this in there. As you see, the pump makes everything so easy, because then you start pumping it in there, you don't get a sweat about it. Just go ahead and pump, pump, pump. This is a nightmare if you've got to take and try and dump this bottle in there. So this pump makes it super easy. So now you see it's gonna start to drip there. That's normal. You want to give it an extra pump to be sure. Wait to see if it all drips out of there. There it goes. Alright, so we'll wait for that to stop dripping. We'll give it an additional pump just to make sure it is completely full, and then we'll fully let it drain out of the gearbox. Now do double check to make sure your hose didn't come loose or fall out. You do want to make sure that this gearbox is completely full of oil to where it drains out of that port, and once it stops draining, thread the plug back in and we'll be good to go. Alright, we've given it about 15 minutes or so now. We're going to give it a quick wipe. See where we're at. Alright, we're pretty good there. Alright, so you guys see what I'm saying here? You'll just basically do that till it stops draining. We're going to go ahead and install this plug. We're going to run it real quick. Just a little forward and aft, make sure we ain't got any leaks. We're going to double check the bottom again to make sure that we don't have any issues there. Sorry, I was concentrating on trying to get this plug in here. Alright, as we tighten this, just remember it's 15 inch-pounds, so it's going to be really light torque. Really light. So you don't want to break this or strip it or anything like that. So put it in there, then give a good wipe around the entire thing. You want to make sure you're going to know if it's leaking or not. Same thing on the bottom. Let's hop down here. And remember from where we drained it at, you're going to take this guy and you're going to wipe all this up the best you can, just so you know if it's leaking or not. Pull out your filler port drain. You'll see the residual from where you let it down, but as long as you can get it to the point of where you know if it's new or if it's old, you should be pretty good to go. And that should be it. This is just so you guys can see why I do this with the thing. So if you scroll back and forth, you can see the little flakes. I don't know what kind of things you guys will be able to see, but when I do this, I can see all the little machining parts from what basically when this thing starts from brand new to where it's at now in the 15 hours. Everything's fitting, it's finding its place. So a lot of times you want to get this, all these little bit of metal shavings out of there, because that's what all this is. This is all metal shavings. So nothing big, so there's nothing crazy going on in there. Nothing's falling apart, but you can see how it's got that that tint of a color there. So it's a good thing that we always do this. You know, it says 50 hours in the book, but we did it at 15 hours just to be safe. So there that is. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's quick, it's easy. It's not like the motor. There's no sense in you know, taking it out to run it. It's not like it pressurizes to make it look out. Just to keep an eye on it over the next day or so to make sure it doesn't leak. And follow us back here in the next couple days. We're going to do the front differential, and we're also going to do the rear differential. And like I said, we're going to put this in a big long video, and then we're also going to break it down so it's each individual task that we're going to do, so you guys can only focus on whatever you're trying to do. But anyway, thanks for following along. See you guys in the next video. Alright, it's day 4 of the CAN AM full service. All we got left is the front and rear differentials. Let's get them knocked out. Alright, we'll start here with the final drive. So it sits in the back. It says recommended oil 75-140. It's the same gear oil that we used for the tranny. So this is going to be very, very simple. Let me walk you over here, show you what we got going on. Alright, we're going to take off this Allen key right here, and then we're going to take off that Allen key right there. Alright, like I said, relatively simple, right? Got these cheap Allen heads that work pretty good from Pittsburgh. Got them from Harbor Freight. 5 mil and a 6 mil. Start with your 6 mil, same thing as everything else. Put it on that guy and spin it off. It's going to allow your fluid to come out from the bottom much better. Make sure you got some sort of drain pan in it. This is supposed to be empty. We'll see. That's pretty good, not too bad. Go ahead and set that to the side. Use your 5 mil. Right below it, boom. Lock her in place and loosen her up. She might come out a little stiffer than the other one, but it'll be all right. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but sorry about being all crooked like that. All right, take her out. Looks like we might have got a little bit of water in there. Kind of hard to tell. Something you want to look for though. So there's that. Allow it to drain. It could just be the gears breaking in, but yeah. You're gonna go ahead. You're gonna let her drain all the way till it stops, and we're gonna put the plug back in. All right. So after actually looking at this, I thought it was milky fluid, but it turns out it's just a sealant, probably to stop it from leaking from the factory. So that's just actually a rubbery sealant that was on the plug to begin with. For first I thought it was that milky white color, so we're good there. I know you guys are freaking out. Alright, let's take a look. Looks like it's done dripping to me. Looks like we can go ahead and reinstall these Allen keys, at least the bottom one. Down. No, you don't need to do nothing crazy on it. That's probably good. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and fill her up. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing we did on the transmission. Fill it till it starts to come out of that hole. little plug here for Royal Purple. Definitely not sponsored by anybody, but this stuff is top notch. I think Royal Purple is the best fluid you can put in your machine. Even just the little bit I just did where I traded out in the transmission, it shifts so much smoother than it did from stock. I've always ran this stuff because, I mean, let's be realistic, you're not actually changing it that often. So I run this really good oil in my front diff, rear diff, transmission, basically anything I can run it in. I do not run it in the engine though, because that T6 has just proven for years and years and years to be the go-to stuff for me. So Royal Purple and T6, that's my money makers. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pump this up until it starts to drain out. I'll be with you guys in a second. All right, same thing as the transmission. We're gonna watch that fluid leak out until it stops, and then we're gonna go ahead and put our drain plug in. Be sure that it stops. You don't want too much oil in there. All right, front diff on the 21 CAN AM Outlander. Super simple, just like the old ones. Nothing new, nothing sketchy. Much easier if you take your skid plate off. All right, you got your fill port here. I already loosened that to let everything drain out. Now on the bottom, same size as the rear. So you got a 5 mil and a 6 mil. You take this one on the bottom. Sorry, it's kind of hard to maneuver. It's really hard to see in here, but boom, there it is. All right, much easier with the skid plate off. You're gonna go ahead and you're gonna loosen this Allen key here. And there it goes. Looks really clean to me. Holds a little bit more fluid than the back, but we'll let this drain. Remember, this is magnetic as well. Just tiny little baby metal shavings, it's good to go. Remember, you just want to make sure you ain't got no big clumps on it or anything like that. So we'll let this drain, we'll get back to you guys. Alright, just like I do on every video, just show you guys, we got front differential fluid, right? Visco floor lock, 400 milliliters, 7590 gear oil. If XPS products are not available, use the API GL5. Highlighter right there, APL GL5. I use the Lucas this time. You guys know I'm a big advocate of Royal Purple, but Lucas will work just fine. It's the same stuff. You just don't want to put in crappy, non-quality Valvoline type shit in there. I don't like that crap. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and reinstall this drain plug, and then we're gonna fill her up. All right, looks like we're done draining. Go ahead and reinstall your plug. Remember not to over torque it. Last thing you want to do is strip this thing out. Much easier with the skid plate off. Go ahead, give her a snug. Grab a rag, clean it off. Nice to have some brake cleaner too. I don't have it here right now, but I'm gonna grab that real quick. Once you're done, give it a spray so you can clean all this stuff up. I like to be sure. I don't know if it's leaking from there or not, so I always clean it up. Cool. All right, let's fill it up. You'll continue to pump until it's full. All right, kind of hard to see because there's low light in here, but just like the rest of the videos, once that stops draining out of there, go ahead and throw your plug in and clean up the area. That's all it's to it. What? What do you want? Get out of here. We're done. If you want more, you're gonna have to subscribe. If you want to. You guys want to hang out and drink beer, that's cool too. I like anybody that drinks beer. Cheers. Warren for the win. Get out of here.